In this video, we're going to be updating the data model for My Library report. At this point, we have three unrelated tables, and we are going to establish the table relationships so that we can create a star schema data model, which is nothing more than a model with a set of transactions in the middle of the table and dimensions explaining more about those transactions outside of it. We'll also see that bringing in the relationships has a profound effect on the visualizations that we create. At this point, we are working in the model data report creation stage. So let's head over to Power BI and start building. I'm in the model view of the My Library report. I can see there are no relationships between the tables here. And if I go on to the visualizations, I can select the drop down by the loans table, and I can drag the loans onto the screen. I'm going to change this visual to be a card visual. And instead of it looking at first loans, I'm going to hit the drop down and ask it to count them. There are 968 loans. If I select on the matrix visual here, I can do a similar thing. I can bring in the loans into the values field well, drag it across, and then instead of having values, I can make it a count. But there's clearly a problem here. It reads 968 everywhere, and that can't be right. And the reason why it's not right is because we haven't got the relationships in place. Let's go and make a change to that. Move to the model view, and we'll establish the relationship by dragging date loan start onto date. We can see that a one-to-many relationship has been established. We have a 1 on the side of the dim date table and a many on the side of the loans table. Let's go and see what effect that has on the visualization. The count of loans has now changed and reads different depending on the academic school year, whereas before it read 968 in every instance. Let's do something similar for the students. I'm going to move this card up to the top right, and I'm going to move the matrix down. I'm going to collapse dim date and loans and then expand the student. Now I'm going to drag the full name of the student into the columns. It's got a problem here, and that's because the relationship hasn't been established. Let's go back to our table view, and we can look at our student table. We know the contact ID. Let's look at the loans table here. We actually have a problem here. We don't actually have the details for the contact. What we can do is we can go back into our query. I can right click on the query and then select edit query. The problem we have is that when we remove the other columns, we removed a few too many columns. Just one, in fact. I'm going to hit the settings icon next to the remove other columns. Look for student, select student, and then select OK. I can see that the student ID column has now been introduced, and I'm going to select close and apply. My model is now updating. The data is coming in respect of the student details. And if I scroll across to the right hand side, I can select on the student column, and I can see there are 10 distinct values because we have 10 students. I can now go to the modeling pane, and we're going to make a join between the student table and between our loans table. Within the context of the student table, we need the contact. Within the context of the loans table, we need the PU student field. I'm going to drag contact onto student, The model has now updated. I'm going to go back to the report view. As you can see, we no longer have an error with this matrix. And I can expand it so that it fills more of the screen. I hope you'll agree that this is starting to look much more like data. We know which school years our 968 loans were taken out in, and we know who took them out. Let's have a play around with this. Let's move this matrix to the top. We're going to click on some white space, and then we're going to bring in a bar chart. Into the x-axis, we're going to bring in the full name from the student table. And into the y-axis, we're going to bring in our loans. I'm going to drag this in and pop it on the y-axis. We have a graphic which very clearly indicates that John Lee has taken out the most loans in the period that we're looking at. We can see that how Power BI allows interactivity. We can select on one of the school years, the one with 244 loans. Select on that. And you can see that the number of loans then changes, and also the distribution of those loans changes between our different students. If we want to change the way in which one visual interacts with another one, we can select on Format, Edit Interactions, and we have three options in our bar chart. We can either have no interactivity, we can have the highlight activity, or we can have the filtering. Now, when we select on different items, we'll see that there is a filtering interactivity taking place. Now that we've come to the end of the exercise, we're going to select Save in the top left-hand side. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We updated the data model for the My Library report. In order to do that, we had to establish our table relationships. And because our loans table didn't have our student contact ID, we went back into Power Query and we introduced it. We then created some Power BI visuals, and we were able to compare what the visual behaved like without the relationship and how it behaved with the relationship. I'll see you in the next video.